وما هذه الحياة الدنيا إلا لهو ولعب وإن الدار الآخرة لهي الحيوان لو كانوا يعلمون.
السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, I would like to thank you all for giving me this opportunity to be a reminder to myself. As the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said that we don't thank the people, that we don't thank Allah. So I thank you all for giving me this chance. The topic that our brothers wanted us to discuss tonight is exposing the evils of the Dunya, the deceptions of the Dunya, that many of us, whether we youth in the older age, male, female, many of us can fall victim to this very easy. And as an American Muslim, as an individual that grew up in the West, grew up in America, and as an individual that grew up as a non-Muslim involved in the music industry, I had some experiences that I would like to share with you all, not to glorify that lifestyle, but as a means of education so that many of the youth here can stay away from these things. As a youngster growing up, I used to analyze the people that I seen on television. And I used to see these rappers and these actors, and I see their houses, I see their cars. I used to say to myself, this is the life that I want for myself. And I became very, as you can say, I would say pretty much every single day of my life, my reality came to the point of how I can try to get into the music industry. I didn't care about anything else in life. I grew up, actually was born in Newark, New Jersey. I grew up in Irvington, New Jersey. And I was raised by my grandparents, alhamdulillah. At the age of 3, I lost both of my parents, my mother and my father. They got murdered in front of me. So my grandparents was nice enough to bring me and my brothers into their household. But a lot of things we took for granted, even though they tried their best to give me and my brothers an upbringing, a good upbringing, but many of us, we was running around, getting into the streets, getting into trouble at a very young age. Grandparents, as we know, they couldn't really do too much to control us. So I grew up watching my brothers and my cousins do things from selling drugs at a very young age. And I remember the day that I tried to follow them in their footsteps. I said, today will be the day that I get involved in the street life. And I want to get involved in drug dealing. And I was about 13, 14 years old. And I remember I went outside and I got drugs from my friend. And the first day I went outside and I tried to get involved in this lifestyle, alhamdulillah, I got locked up. I got arrested. And I told myself that this life is not for me. I thank Allah that at a young age I said, this life is not good for me. But I was in a competition with my brothers and my cousins. I wanted to do something that they wasn't able to do. And that's when I turned to writing raps. It started off as poetry. Whatever I would see outside on my block in my neighborhood, I would go to my room and I would make a song out of it. And I would come back on my street and I'd come back on my block and I would say it in front of my friends in the neighborhood. And it got to a point that I became like a neighborhood local star. And they would start paying me. They would come to me and say, come over here, let me hear you spit some rhymes. I will give you money. And this was the early 90s. So eventually, I wanted to get serious in the music industry, and I ran into a childhood friend of mine who I found out was also trying to pursue a career in the music industry, and he had a brother by the name of Tupac Shakur. So the moms of my friend told me if I'm serious and I want to get into the music industry, here's my chance. Tupac was visiting New York City at this particular time. I was able to hop on a train from Newark, went to New York City. I said some raps for him, and that's how I got involved with Tupac and the Outlaws, and that was the beginning of my career in the music industry. Eventually, Tupac decided to put a rap group together, made me one of the members of this rap group, and the first record that we ever appeared on sold over 5 million records worldwide. And I remember getting more and more heavy into the music industry. More and more fame started to come my way. And eventually I appeared on over 40 million record sales worldwide. After the death of Tupac, I don't have to go into details. I'm sure many of you guys heard about the death of Tupac Shakur. After the death of Tupac Shakur, me and my group, we continued to do music. At this particular time of my life, I started to see money coming from the music industry. And I became very successful, and I became very wealthy. At one particular time of my life, I owned 3 homes in California, Los Angeles, California. I had brand new cars, I had money, I had whatever you could think about in this dunya. But the only thing I didn't have was happiness. And I started to reflect on my life. I started to reflect and I started to say to myself, I have everything that people will probably do anything, compromise their morals, compromise anything to get to this part of life. But I wonder why I cannot find any happiness in this lifestyle. So every day I would wake up and I would say this would be a day I would try to do something different to bring some happiness to me. And I tried everything. I gave myself so many excuses. I would say, well, maybe I'm not happy because I didn't purchase this car. I need to get a better car. I need to get the bigger car. I need to get this type of jewelry. I need to get a bigger house. And the more that I obtained these things, the more depressed that I became. So even though I was an individual that sold millions of records, I made millions of dollars. Even though I was an individual, when you turn on the television and you look at me in my rap videos, from the outside looking in, you would say this is a happy individual. From the outside looking in, you would say, look at his cars, look at his house, look at his life. I know he's a happy individual. But every single night, I was going to sleep depressed. And I started to reflect because I knew I had to be more than life than this. So I started to reflect and I was coming up with all types of ideas of the reason of me being depressed and unhappy. And I sat down one day and I said, you know what? I came up with an idea. The reason why I'm not happy is because I don't know my mother's side of the family. My mother was actually from Puerto Rican and Cuba. She was half Puerto Rican, half Cuban, and I didn't really know that side of my family. So I said, matter of fact, I'm taking a trip to Puerto Rico. And I remember calling my brothers, calling my friends. We got on the plane. We went to Puerto Rico, stayed about 2 weeks there. Went back to New Jersey, went back to my depression. And I got to the point of my life, these are my friends, one of them that just walked in, who's a childhood friend of mine. He's actually was my manager, this individual here. So after I became in the music industry, he was one of the individuals that came out to California and used to visit us. But when I went back to America, I said to myself, there's no point of me even living anymore. I said, what is left in life for me to obtain? I have the money, I have the houses, I have the cars. What is left for me to obtain? There's no other way, nothing else on this earth will bring my happiness. And I said at this particular time of my life, there's no need for me to live anymore. And I started to do things and I started to live my life on the edge. I started to be intoxicated from morning into nighttime. I started to experience with different drugs. I started telling myself that hopefully this day would be the day that someone would take me out of my misery. I would do everything, I'm talking about from starting fights, to try to put myself in a situation where this would be the individual today to take me out of my misery. And one day I happened to be in a recording studio and I got into a fight with my own little brother. And there was a Muslim in the recording studio. Alhamdulillah, he broke the fight up. And he asked my name, I told him my name, we exchanged phone numbers. And every day this brother would call me. And this was in Los Angeles, California. Every day he would call me, inviting me to the mosque, inviting me to the masjid. So eventually I accepted his call and his invitation and I went to the masjid. I remember pulling up in front of the masjid. I was in about a $70,000 Lexus. This was the time when Lexus came out with the convertible drop top. I was one of the first individuals with this car. And I remember pulling up inside of the car in front of, and the masjid was in South Central Los Angeles. And I remember seeing people getting off the bus. And seeing people literally driving up, pulling up to the masjid on bikes. And everybody was getting out, everybody was hugging each other, everybody had a smile. And here I am sitting in this car and I'm telling myself, wait a minute. What is it that I have? What is it that these people have that I don't? Because I'm watching them getting off the bus and getting off of bicycles, hugging each other, pulling up, walking up in the masjid. And I said, these individuals might have something that I wanted to know, something that I need in my life, and I wanted to know what they have. So I walked into the masjid. About 30 or 40 of my friends ended up meeting me up there. I walked into the masjid. And at this particular time of my life, I used to have negative understanding of Islam. Similar to what the media are doing now. I was one of them individuals that had a negative thinking of the Muslims and Islam. Because when my mother and father got murdered in front of me when I was 3 years old, the people that murdered them was affiliated with the Nation of Islam. I'm not sure if you guys heard of the Nation of Islam. So I grew up with my grandparents telling me the Muslims killed your mother and father. So I grew up having hatred of my ignorance towards Muslims and Islam. So when I went up in the masjid, I called about 30 or 40 of my friends because I didn't trust Muslims. I'm thinking that these are the people that murdered my mother and father. And I remember walking up in the mosque, in the masjid, and I noticed everybody hugging, everybody happy, everybody smiling. Prayer time came, and this brother, the one who invited me, said, look, you got to pray, you have to pray. And I told him, I said, I don't know how to pray. I said, I never prayed in my life. I never prayed in my life except for when I wanted something. That was the only time. I was one of them individuals that remembered the creators when I wanted something. So this individual told me, said, listen here, we Muslims, we worship Allah. And he said, what we're going to do, we're going to pray to Allah in one of our prayers, and you follow along with us. Whatever you see us do, you follow. But remember, when you put your face on the floor, that you only worship in the creator of the heavens and the earth, and whatever you want, you ask him. At this particular time of my life, I didn't need any money. I had the money. I didn't need fame. I had the fame. I didn't need jewelry. I didn't need that life. The only thing I wanted in my life at this particular time was sakina, was tranquility, was happiness. I would give up all my money just to find a day in my life for some peace. And most people might not understand that. Most of the shabab, most of the youth, when they turn on the television and they see these rappers and they look at their lifestyle, most of us and most of our Muslim youth, unfortunately, they believe that this is the lifestyle that they need in their life. Because the only thing you see from that lifestyle is 5 minutes. You got to understand that to make a rap video nowadays, or 2-minute video or rap video, they probably spend $1 million. Back in the day, in my time, it was $1 million or $400,000 to shoot a rap video. We spend thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, to deceive you all. We spend millions of dollars to deceive you all, to make you believe that the life we live in is the life that you need in your life. So eventually, when I followed the instructions of this brother, I put my face down to the floor, I supplicated to Allah, and the only thing I wanted at that particular time of my life was the truth. And all the time I'm supplicating to Allah, I didn't really believe or even think or second thought that one day I would be a Muslim. Because I used to believe what the media say about the religion of Islam, or what my grandparents told me about the religion of Islam. But I supplicated to God, and I supplicated to Allah that day to guide me to the true way of life, to the true religion, and guide me to a way that will bring me happiness. So when the prayer time was over, the brother gave me literature of the religion of Islam. And I drove to my house, and I had the Quran, English translation of the Quran, and I started to read it. And one of the things that I reflected on back then as a rap artist, I used to pay attention to the words and the lyrics of other rap artists or other musicians. And some of these musicians are pretty much geniuses when it comes to writing. So I knew what men were capable of writing. I knew the level of words that men was capable of doing. But when I read the Quran, even though it was in an English translation, I said to myself, there's no way this can be the words of a man. No way, no doubt about it. And I knew right there that the words that I was reading in the Quran, even though it was the English translation, I said that this have to be from the one who created it. And I called this brother and I told him I'm ready to accept the religion of Islam. Alhamdulillah, I accepted the religion of Islam. That was 12 years ago. And alhamdulillah, I thank Allah that was the best decision of my life that I ever made. And what my advice that I want to give to the youth now, because unfortunately, and I don't know if it's any one of us in this room, but we all make mistakes. And I'm not saying if there's anyone that's in this room that's listening up to the music, or looking up to these rap artists, or looking up to these actresses, and looking up to this way of life that's deceiving the Muslims. That's deceiving us. As Allah says in the Quran, in the English translation in Surah Luqman, that the shaitan would use his voice to misguide the people. The ulama, the tafsir, the scholars from the Sahaba, from the Tabi'een, they said when Allah mentioned in that verse, they was talking about music, a lot of hadith. Tafsir Ibn Kathir said that verse right there means that the shaitan will use his what? His voice to misguide the Muslims, to misguide the people. How many of the Muslim youth are going astray because of the music industry? How many of our Muslim youth, may Allah protect us, how many of our Muslim youth is going astray from watching the television and watching these movies? Start to feel like the religion of Islam is not what we need in our life. Start to feel ashamed to being a Muslim. Start to be ashamed to being named Muhammad. Start telling the people, call me Mo. Start to be ashamed to having the name of Umar. Starting to be ashamed because they look up to the non-Muslims to the point that they feel ashamed to be a Muslim. The Muslim who Allah legislated, the best of mankind, the Muslims. The religion of all the prophets. The religion of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions. Why are we ashamed to follow that deen? The religion that only will be accepted by Allah is the religion of Islam. The way of life that will bring us honor is the religion of Islam. As Umar bin Khattab mentioned one time that we was once lost. And Allah guided us to the religion of Islam. And if we look for honor other than the religion of Islam, Allah will disgrace us. Allah will humiliate us. Because our honor, our izzah is following the Quran and the Sunnah. Wallahi, brothers and sisters, I was an individual that sold over 40 million, was on 40 million record sales worldwide, and I wasn't happy until I accepted the religion of Islam. Until I accepted the religion of Islam. If I have a penny in my pocket, alhamdulillah, I'm happy. Because I have Islam. Because Allah guided me to the religion of Islam, and I have a chance to die in as a Muslim. Because Allah said, do not die except as a Muslim. And what the verse mean, if the tafsir of that verse mean, like the scholar said, is that we have to live our life as a Muslim. In order to die as a Muslim, as Allah said, do not die except as a Muslim, we have to live our life as a Muslim. Meaning that we follow what's in the book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when we fall short, and when we commit sins, we do tawbah. We repent. Because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said in a hadith, was translated to me that all the sons of Adam commit sins. And the best of those who commit sins are the ones who do tawbah. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us this. And Allah mentioned many verses in the Quran that He loved the ones who return to Him constantly in repentance. This is what Allah says in the Quran. This is what Allah says in His book. So one of the things, as our brother mentioned, man, we don't want to be deceived by this life. A life that is leaving us every single day. Every day that we wake up is another day closer to our grave. Wallahi, man, how many times, alhamdulillah, I haven't been on the east coast of America in the last 5 years. I moved to Saudi Arabia 5 years ago, alhamdulillah, and I haven't seen my family and friends in 5 years, alhamdulillah. But many of my family and friends, we are Facebook friends. And I don't remember, honestly, living since the time that I moved to Saudi Arabia. And from the time that I opened up this Facebook page, I don't remember a week going by without me reading somebody that I know, or somebody that knows someone that I know that got murdered or got killed. From all types of ages. From all ages, not even murder or people dying. People getting sick, people getting ill. My cousin was only 36 years old. I'm 38 years old, so to me that's young. My cousin was only 36 years old 2 months ago. We get a phone call, she died. No illness, no symptoms. Her daughter walked in the room, she was lying on the floor dead. Every soul shall taste death, and we don't know when that's going to happen. We pray that Allah give us a good ending. So we don't want to be deceived by this life. We don't want to be deceived by the dunya that is very pleasing that look very pleasing to us. Alhamdulillah, as a Muslim, we love the dunya and we hate the dunya. As the Muslim, we know this. We love the dunya, we hate the dunya. But we don't want to be fooled by this dunya. We don't want to think that this is all life has to offer us. To the point that we compromise our religion. To the point that we compromise our religion to make money or to make a living in a way that's haram and displeasing to Allah. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be the ones that say, you know what, it's struggling, it's hard for me. Let me figure a way to make some haram money. May Allah protect us from that. May Allah protect us from that. May Allah allow us to do what was written in the Quran and the Sunnah. May Allah allow us to follow these rules. And the Muslim, believe it or not, brothers and sisters, even if you have a penny in your pocket, you rich. Even if you have a penny in your pocket, you have the religion of Islam, you rich. Because you died upon the religion of the prophets. You died on the way that if you die upon the religion of Islam, you get Jannah. And Jannah is forever. And this life is, what? Is this life forever? We believe this dunya is forever? What is the root word of dunya? I know the brothers know Arabic. The brothers speak Arabic. Our brother, huh? And what does that mean? Something that's going to go away. And also they say that the root word dunya also means something that is very low. This is a lowly life. This is lowly on the earth. Wallahi, I had millions. I spent millions. And I wasn't happy. It wasn't to the religion of Islam. This is our deen. This is our izzah. This is our life. This life's going to go away. So what do we say? We advise each other, and I'm talking to myself first, that we advise each other, that we hold on to this deen. We advise each other what the Prophet ﷺ advises with. That we hold on to this deen, and we hold on to the sunnah, even if we have to bite on it with our molar teeth. We take the advice of the Prophet ﷺ when he said, follow my sunnah. And the sunnah of the what? The four rightly guided khulifah. The four rightly guided caliphs. We take the advice of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when he told us that every son of Adam commits sins, but the best of the sins are the ones who do tawbah. And we try to learn our religion properly. We learn our religion from the pure sources. Because nowadays you see what's happening to Muslims. You see what's happening all around us, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we don't blame anyone. We don't keep blaming the kuffar. We don't blame the Jews. We don't blame the Christians, because Allah says in the Quran, whatever evil befalls you is from what your own hands put forth. We blame ourselves. And Allah says in the Quran, we will not change the condition of the people until they change what is within themselves first. So this is the advice I want to give myself and give to the brothers and sisters. And I believe we might have questions and answers after, inshallah. So jazakumullah khair for your time. The question is why I decided to choose to live in Saudi Arabia. Well, one, ever since I accepted the religion of Islam, I wanted to live in a country, a Muslim country, a place where I can learn, I can study the religion of Islam, my kids can grow up in a safe environment. And to me, as an individual living 5 years in Saudi Arabia, there is no better place to me for the Muslims than Saudi Arabia. And most of the people would say, why? As an individual that lives in Saudi Arabia, and as an individual that reads all the news that's come out about Saudi Arabia and all the rumors of Saudi Arabia, as an individual who lives in Saudi Arabia, I don't see none of that stuff. I see a country that allows the people, that force the people to pray 5 times a day. As Allah mentioned in the Quran, when we give authority of the people, of those who are in authority of the people, they enforce the salah, they enforce the zakat. This is something that's mandatory upon the ones who's in charge of the Muslims. We see that in Saudi Arabia, alhamdulillah. In Saudi Arabia, I would say majority of people upon khair. You have good and bad in every place, so we won't say everyone, you know. But majority of the people's upon khair. You have ulama. Alhamdulillah, Saudi Arabia is a place where when the King Abdulaziz founded Saudi Arabia, he brought scholars from Pakistan, from Palestine, from Africa, from Asia, from India, and they all came to Saudi Arabia, from Ethiopia, from all parts of the world, and you still have that knowledge there that you can go weekly days in Saudi Arabia and sit with a scholar, and you can go ask a question, and the scholar will give you an answer according to Quran and the Sunnah. And it's a very safe environment, as we know that the safety is from Allah, alhamdulillah, it's very safe. My kids, my wife, you know, it's funny because most of the people say that Saudi Arabia oppress women. I'm an individual that's living there with my wife and my 4 kids, and mashallah, tabarakallah, I've never seen women in my life, and personally, more spoiled than women in Saudi Arabia. Honestly, I've never seen women in my life the way they live. But unfortunately, we in America, we hear something different, you know. My wife, alhamdulillah, she's been living in America for the last 20-something years. And I would have never took her to a place that I think would be an oppressive environment for her, especially with my wife and my kids. So alhamdulillah, these are the reasons that I moved to Saudi Arabia, and it's a very, very unique and blessed place. You know? Yes.
The question is, what do you advise the youth to spend their free time on? You know, like what are some good things, halal things they should do with their brothers and sisters that keep them away from those evils you mentioned?
Yes, I think one of the things, good question our brother mentioned, and me and you was talking about this earlier today. As myself a convert, our brother also a convert, one of the things that we're working on ourselves is to learn the Lughat Arabiya, the Arabic language, you know. And it's one of the things that I believe, it's not what I believe, it's Lughat Arabiya, it's the language of Quran and the Sunnah. So in order for us to really understand the book of Allah and the Sunnah, we should be working and studying to get this language. So I think that if there's any free time, we should study our religion, and I think the brothers and sisters should spend a great amount of time in the masjids whenever they can, spend time with their brothers and sisters. But of course, I think we should study, learn our deen on our free time, inshallah. And one brother told me, actually, American brother, he's a teacher, and I remember he was speaking to a Saudi class, and he was saying about studying. And I want to take this advice to myself. He said, even if you do it 10, 15 minutes a day, it's better than nothing, you know. So this is advice myself and we give to the brothers and sisters, inshallah. The question I ever thought about doing Islamic rap? And the answer is yes. But the problem was when I started to investigate, there was no such thing as Islamic rap. And one, because anything that we contribute or attribute to the religion of Islam, it have to be pure. As Islam is from Allah. And there's nothing that is pure, that unpure, that we can contribute or attribute to the religion of Islam. I mean, for example, you have gangster rap, you have devil worshiping rap, you have all types of rap music nowadays. So we can never say Islamic rap. And as an individual, that when I first accepted the religion of Islam, I remember when I went to Hajj, I met some brothers from Canada. And when they asked me what I was doing, I told them that I'm a rap artist. I'm in the music industry. And these brothers told me this was the first time I heard music was haram. And when they told me that music was haram, I pretty much was turned off from these brothers. And if I see them in a hotel, I would go the other way because I didn't want to be around anybody that was telling me music was haram. And then I heard it again from other people. How you going to do music? Music is haram. And then I hear someone else, no, music is not haram. It's a difference of opinion. And after me keep constantly hearing music was haram, I said as an individual that accepted Islam to follow the truth, I would like to know Islam stands for music. So I started to read and I started to investigate, and I noticed that there is no such thing as Islamic music. And there's no such thing as a difference of opinion. Even though we might say people say it's a difference of opinion, usually when it's a difference of opinion, it's from the 4 imams, madhabs, or it's from the Sahaba. But you will not see it from the Shafi, from the Maliki, from the Hanbali, from the Hanafi. All 4 of them said musical instruments is haram. The only musical instrument that was permitted, they say, was the duf, the youth, that was allowed to be played for women in front of women. You understand? And they will use a hadith. They say, well, what about this hadith? When the Prophet ﷺ was with Aisha and the woman was playing the duf, and Abu Bakr said the musical instruments of the shaitan in the house of the Prophet, and the Prophet didn't say nothing. He said, well, everyone has their Eid, and this is their Eid. But even that narration, Ibn Taymiyyah said that the Prophet ﷺ, his face was turned the other way. He turned to Aisha and said, oh Aisha, are you finished listening? As a sign that he wasn't listening. And the reason why I say this, brother, because as brothers, we want to advise each other with the truth. You understand? And if you study yourself, you will not see no hadith, you will not see no Quran, you will not see no Sahaba or Tabi'een permitting musical instruments. Except for one of the earlier scholars, I think it was Ibn Hazm, if I'm not mistaken. He was one of them that probably said it was permissible. But if you look at the Sahaba, you look at the Hadith, and you look at the scholars of Islam, it's best to stay away from this. And I will tell you why. They say, for example, music put hypocrisy in the heart. And they say music, for example, it leads to making more immoral things happening. And music actually can control the individual. As one of the, I don't know if it was the Sahaba or one of the earliest Salafi said, that a person that listens to music will never memorize the Quran. You will forget the Quran if you listen to music. In Toronto, a university in Canada, Toronto, they did a study on musical instruments alone. And they did a study when people listen to musical instruments, and they said that when you listen to musical instruments, your brain releases something called dopamine. The same chemical that when you take hardcore drugs such as cocaine or you drink alcohol, this is what musical instruments do to blood. So it has a control over the people. And nothing should control our emotions or our heart like the Quran, you know? So we have Quran that's better, alhamdulillah.
Right.
Yeah, some of our friends have accepted Islam.
Your friend? The one who likes you.
Yeah. When I was a rapper, the name Napoleon actually was given to me by Tupac Shakur, and this name was given to me because of my height. And I used to have a very bad temper, and Pop used to say I had the short man complex, which is also the Napoleon Bonaparte complex, so that's how I got the name. The question was, did my family have any negativity or negative reaction when I converted to Islam? Alhamdulillah, my family is very supportive. My family is very supportive, and they've always been, if it's something that I decided it can make me a better person, they've always been very supportive, alhamdulillah. And I had a few family members, my brothers accepted Islam, my aunts, I had an aunt that accepted Islam. And also I had an uncle, since I was a child, I had 2 uncles that were Muslim. But they never gave us dawah. But we love them for the sake of Allah, but they were Muslim, alhamdulillah. The brother asked me if I can explain about the real goal and the intent of the people that's behind the music industry, huh? And no doubt the people that's involved in the industry is probably some of the most wicked people on the face of the earth. You know, my years in the music industry, I was able to be involved in some things that heard of and seen some things that was pretty much I never seen even in the street like or growing up in the hoods, you know. There was a lot of things, and I believe a lot of the individuals, they have an agenda. And it's an agenda that's aimed at the youth, no doubt. You understand? And that agenda is pretty much to brainwash the kids. They want to brainwash the people, and they want you to believe what they want you to believe in. They want you to follow the way of life that they want you to follow, and they're going to use industry, the music, and the television to put this in the brains of a kid. You understand? And I will tell you a story, personal story. I remember when I accepted the religion of Islam, and I thought, as a brother said, that I could do so-called Islamic rap, so positive rap. And I had a meeting with a record label in Los Angeles, Virgin Records at that time. I think they shut down. And the CEO, the A&R at that time, was a friend of mine. And I remember I did a record album with no cuss words. You know, no cuss words. And I played it for him. And he was like, yeah, this is okay, but we want you to do music like before. He said, if you come out with a song before, we had a song where we used to talk bad about other rappers. It was called Hit 'Em Up. He said, if you come out with a song similar to Hit 'Em Up, talking bad about Mobb Deep, I'll give you the record deal right now. So they didn't want to, I knew right there that the agendas, they wanted to push a certain type of music. They want to push a certain type of violence. And another thing I read on the internet, some things, majority of things we read on the internet, we know is not true. But this one hit home, and I believe that it's a truth to this. This was an individual who said he was an A&R, and he was from Sweden. And he said it was in the early 80s. He came to America to work as an A&R at one of the record companies. And he said that there was a party in Beverly Hills at a mansion, and it was only by invitation only. And they only invited people from the music industry, such as A&Rs and people from the radio station that can get records played. And this letter you can find on the internet, this individual. And he said when he got to the place, they made everybody sign a non-disclosure agreement that whatever you hear at this meeting, you cannot repeat. But this individual said he'd been on his conscience for over 20-something years, or 30 years, and he had to come out and say something. He said when he got to this party at this house in Beverly Hills, it was people from private prisons there. And he said the main guy got up, he said, I'm going to tell you why I invited these individuals from private prisons all around America, and why I invited those who are in charge of the music industry. And he said that we're going to start promoting a new gender of rap music called gangster rap, this individual. And he said, I'm going to tell you how it's going to make sense for everybody. The private prisoners are going to invest the money. We're going to put this gangster rap and we're going to flood it on the radios. Once you flood something on the radio, the people start, even if it's a bad song, you're going to eventually start falling in love with it. We're going to flood this lifestyle, and what's going to happen is going to make people commit more crimes in the neighborhoods. They're going to send them in prison for the private prisoners, and everybody going to, it's a win-win situation. So when I read that, I said, SubhanAllah, even though we don't know if this guy is telling the truth, but I 100% believe there's some truth to that, 100%. No doubt about it. These individuals that's putting out this music, and they putting out these movies, and it's all an agenda, and they all want to get the youth, they want to brainwash the youth. If they come out right now and say this pair of sneakers cost this amount of money, and they pay this rapper to wear it, everybody probably on the East Coast will wear it, and Nas or Jay-Z wear it, or Beyonce wear it. And they tell you that this lifestyle is okay, and if anybody don't agree with this lifestyle, he's an extremist, or he's a deviant, or we got to kick him out of school. If he don't believe that this person should be married to this person, if he goes against it, the media, the radio nowadays make you feel like an outsider if you don't agree with their agenda. So all of this, of course, is no doubt about playing, but alhamdulillah, we have this deen of Islam, and this is our protection. As long as we follow this religion, we protect it, inshallah. I definitely, I can agree, I agree with you. You know, I haven't personally seen anyone involved in, devil worshiping or these type of activities, but no doubt, this is what the music industry breeds. The music industry brings immorality. You understand? This is why the earlier Muslims, they say listening to music can lead to zina, fornication. And most of the people would say, how? We know that it affects the arts in a certain way. So of course it can lead to immorality. We know this hands down, And I won't put it past saying that people don't worship, that people do devil worship in the music industry. I definitely would believe that, you understand? You have rappers like Snoop Dogg, may Allah guide him to Islam. He did a whole song, and the song he sold his soul to the devil, and he had another verse going back and forth. You know what I mean? So people might do it not even knowing it. They might think that it's just music what they're doing, but not knowing that they really went that far. You understand? So may Allah protect us from this. Haram money don't last. There's no barakah in it. I can tell you that. You know what I mean? So even when I walked away with some of that money from the industry and I invested in different business, either they stole my money or the business didn't go well. The question was, what advice would we give to a person that they want to leave music and they're struggling to leave it and they're listening to it? I think my advice would be continue to make dua. Never give up asking Allah, never give up supplicating to Allah, because Allah will answer the dua of the believers 100%, guaranteed. And Allah says, call on me and I'm going to answer you. You know what I mean? So we continue to ask Allah, keep begging Allah, and Allah will make it happen. And first, you know, get rid of the, see, I'm old school, y'all might not even have CDs anymore. You know? Yeah, so get rid of the CDs or whatever, what's it, the MP? Delete it, whatever is that, delete it. Just delete it, y'all. Yeah, just get rid of it and, you know, try to have good companionship who don't listen to music, but constantly make you happy, you know? And may Allah help us all. Yes, brother. The question was when I decided to move to Saudi Arabia, it took a lot to convince my wife to make the move. Alhamdulillah, my wife was actually born in Saudi Arabia. My wife originally from Yemen. So she was born in Saudi Arabia and she lived there for a while. And then she moved to America. So her mother, my mother-in-law was in Saudi Arabia for the last 30, 40 years in Medina. My wife's sister's at Emiratis from Abu Dhabi. So she was pretty much like, yalla, let's go. We was ready to make that change. Alhamdulillah, my friend's family was always supportive, alhamdulillah. Especially like growing up in Jersey, in North New Jersey, Islam has always been part of that community from the days of Malcolm X. So you don't really know, you pretty much won't see one family in North especially who don't have a Muslim relative. So they pretty much was used to the word Muslims and Islam, so they're very supportive. Was it hard to stop drinking? These things at the beginning definitely was hard, it was difficult. And that's why I say what helped me was kept supplicating to Allah, kept begging Allah, and alhamdulillah, eventually He made it easy. At the beginning of these things, I think it will always be hard at the beginning, you know? And I thank Allah that He aided me through it. Yeah, poetry, you know, is, mashallah, poetry in Islam is permissible. And, you know, from the time of the Sahaba, the time of the Prophet, and many of the scholars used to write poetry, so that is permissible, you know? And I also think about doing poetry every once in a while. I think about it, even talking to the ulama, Saudi Arabia, they say no doubt poetry is permissible. You know, it's something that many of the scholars advise if you can do it to do it. You know, of course you have to be talking about certain things. You can't just do poetry about, you know, certain things. Yeah, you have to talk about Islam, talk about Allah, talk about positive things and stuff like that. No doubt. So I understand. Yeah, Bona Muhammad, I know who he is. I never heard his poetry, but I heard about him. You know, so maybe I'll check him out because he don't do music, right? So I gotta check him out. Many of them, man, like when I accepted the religion of Islam, I think it might have been a mistake, but I pretty much cut everybody off at the beginning. And the reason why I said it was a mistake because it's good to keep in touch with old friends, and especially these type of people to give them dawah, you know? So now I try my best if I can run into or get in contact with anybody that I know from the industry. I try to talk to. Even today, matter of fact, I talked to Raekwon from the Wu-Tang Clan. He actually took Shahada about 4 years ago. So I talked to him today, and alhamdulillah, he's doing good. Ghostface Killer, also Muslim. So you have quite a few people in the music industry that's accepting the religion of Islam. And they just caught up between when eventually they know they have to leave that music industry, but it takes time, you know what I mean? But alhamdulillah, you have quite a few rappers and musicians that become a Muslim. Did I quit the music industry after I became Muslim? It took some time. It took a few years later, 3, 4 years later, after I accepted Islam, for me to leave it. So it wasn't an overnight thing. The lifestyle is different, no doubt, you know what I mean? I think Saudi Arabia, you have to have patience. You got to step your patience up, no doubt about it, you know what I mean? So it was a lot of difference, a lot of things that I'm still not used to, but mashallah, very great place. I'm very happy for it. And you know, every place they have their culture. They have certain things that they do only in this land and only in this country. And Saudi Arabia is one of the places that have their culture, certain things that they only do there that you have to understand. I respect everybody's culture, you know what I mean? And you definitely got to be patient, but it's a good country, wallah. You know, it's a fast-growing country. The good about Saudi Arabia, you can get Deen and Dunya, you know what I mean? And but it's mashallah, you see a lot of Americans are coming here studying and going overseas and living in Saudi. But alhamdulillah, it was good for me. I enjoyed it, man. Now, after the death of Tupac, I think I accepted the religion of Islam about maybe 6, 7 years later, you know. It wasn't, but I will say that the death of my friends, I started to reflect, you know. If you were a person every single day of your life, I lived with Tupac since maybe I was 14 years old up until he died. So when you were a person every single day of your life, and then you wake up one day and he's not there anymore, and you know what I mean, these things will start making, you will start reflecting, start thinking, you know. So that definitely started to trigger, it triggered something to let me know I won't be here forever. It was hard, of course, you know. He was like a family member. He was an individual I was with every single day. I lived in his house. I left New Jersey, moved with him to Atlanta, then I moved with him to Los Angeles. So of course, you know, losing a loved one is always difficult. Yes, ma'am.
Is there any way for us to stay in contact with you or like to look more into your story?
Yeah, you can, you know, I have a Facebook page, Mutah Napoleon Beale. Also on Instagram, Mutah Beale. We have some videos on YouTube and stuff like that. Maybe you'll bring me back out here, inshallah. Inshallah. Good question. The question was, did I face any discrimination in Saudi Arabia? You heard stories of a lot of non-Saudis getting discriminated against. How do I make a living in Saudi Arabia? The first question, alhamdulillah, I never been discriminated in Saudi Arabia. I never faced anything negative in Saudi Arabia. I never even seen anything negative in as far as like any discrimination taking place. No doubt I heard stories. And I think one thing I would say on that, I think Saudi Arabia, sometimes they get oppressed in a way, meaning that if a Saudi does anything wrong, it would go all over the Ummah and everybody would say, look at these Saudi people, look at these people, they treat everybody like this, you understand? That's one thing I noticed, that the Saudis get a bad rap, you know? No doubt about it, you have good people and bad people everywhere. No doubt about it, you might hear some negative stories of Saudi Arabia, no doubt about it. But I would say personally, the majority of the Saudis are good people. And I think you will find a minority of bad people everywhere. And I think a lot of them, I stay away from these type of people. If you're a good person to me, I'm good to you. If you show good kindness to me, I'm the same way. If not, I don't want to be around you. But I would definitely say that, you know, Saudi Arabia, I think it's changing a lot because now you have a lot of foreigners there. You know, at one particular time, maybe he wasn't used to these foreigners. But now you see foreigners from every face of the earth in Saudi Arabia. So I think that's probably going to help them get used to other people and other cultures. So no doubt, I heard some stories, and but I never faced anything, alhamdulillah. And my job, I work for a dawah center in Saudi Arabia. That's the way that I was able to move there, but it's not the way I make my living. I have a coffee business, I have a coffee shop. I had one in Saudi Arabia, but then we opened a second one in Ras Al Khaimah next to Dubai. So I try to do business up there. The question was, what was the reason the Nation of Islam murdered my parents? I will clarify, it wasn't actually a hit from the Nation of Islam, but the ones who murdered my parents was part of the Nation of Islam. So my grandparents used to just throw that in my face, that the Muslims killed your mother and father, things like that. Well, my father, he was a businessman, and his business at that time, he used to sell diamonds. And it was a risky business, even especially then and now, you know. And he used to deal with a lot of cash. So the people that killed him wanted to rob him. It was people that was considered my godfather, Jahiliyyah. You know, we have godparents, you know. So they pretty much robbed him for the money. They stole the money, they killed him, they killed my mother, they killed my father friend in the house, and they left me and my brothers in the house for overnight by ourselves, you know. I got shot in the foot. I was only 3 years old. But alhamdulillah, Allah, mashallah, everything that happened from Allah we accept. And the imam, the person that killed my parents is the imam in the prison. He accepted the religion of Islam. May Allah forgive him. The death of my parents, the death of my parents, I think it definitely, you know, growing up with our parents, it could be, you know, it could be a test, you know what I mean? I think is now that I have 5 kids, and I see the way my kids is, and I see the way I'm into their lives, and the way I interact with them, I know it's very important if you can have both parents in your life, you know. But I thank Allah for my grandparents because they did a very good job, alhamdulillah.